Can I tap into your armed services intelligence, and maybe you know things that we don't know, but how disturbed should we be that the attack has moved so far west? And is it deliberate? Well, obviously it's deliberate, but he's not trying to draw NATO into this, is he? Because we're getting very close.
Well, it would seem very peculiar for him to do that, Joe. I mean, all along he's been suggesting, you know, every move that we've made, he's suggested that we're getting drawn in. It almost appears that he is, and yet it makes no strategic sense. You know, he's having a fairly easy, much more difficult than he thought time of going into Ukraine, taking Ukrainian cities. Certainly the the waterways that's important to him. So that's made some sense. But you wouldn't think he'd want to take on the entire NATO alliance, and that's what he'd be flirting with. But at the same time, I'm not sure we're dealing with a real sane Vladimir Putin here. So I think that's the question.
I wondered about that, whether in the hearings, you know, when you're behind closed doors, is that posited that he's lost it? Is that really something we should be thinking about?
Well, we don't have a lot of psychiatrists in our hearings necessarily, but there's no question. We could use a few. Well, but there's no question that he has evolved into a much less rational and strategic leader than he was, you know, even a few years ago. So, yeah, there is concern about that, and that's something we've got to watch closely, obviously. But it's also why we should be arming the people of Ukraine better. We've been dragging our feet at every turn. When I say we, I mean the administration, and they've made a lot of decisions to send lethal weapons and more aid, and the president just announced another couple $100 million worth. But we should have done a lot more, a lot sooner, in a preemptive effort here. So
that brings us to the Polish MiG situation. If we know that he's already bombing right near the border with Poland because of supply, weapon supplies or whatever coming from there, that would seem that would be an escalation, in his view, of what the United States or what NATO is doing. And did we want to do that? Did it make a difference if it went through Germany, if it went straight from Poland, you know, didn't land on a U.S. base? Would it have made a difference? Do you think we should have done that and supplied Ukraine with MiGs?
Well, I don't personally, Joe. I don't think we ought to let Vladimir Putin determine what we do. He made the decision to invade. We should have done more to preempt that. Now that we're this far into it, and he's that close to Poland, and frankly, the fact that President Zelensky has asked for these MiGs, I think we should have green-lighted them at the beginning. Remember, what was it, March 6th? The administration green-lighted those MiGs going to Ukraine, and 4 days later, when Poland, you know, frankly, I wish they would have just sent them to them, but when they chose to go the route going through the United States as the arbiter, the United States changed its policies. I think that's a difference without a distinction without a difference. I don't think that Vladimir Putin would have drawn a difference. He already knows what he wants to do, and I think we ought to give them all the tools they need to prevent him from doing it. We need to dissuade him from being as aggressive as he is.
Senator, do you support giving Ukraine the Patriot missile defense system?
I support giving them the best defense system possible, but you know, we've given them some pretty good ones. Obviously, they've had some with the shoulder ones that you're familiar with.
Yeah,
they need sophisticated ones. We should have provided them. There's talk of the S-300, which is actually, ironically, a Russian air defense system, a very good one, and a number of our NATO allies have them. I think that would make perfect sense. I think it would be just as effective, quite honestly, and probably more familiar.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.